Whoa! I was skeptical about a 3D Mario game. However, actually playing this stuff is so tubular. Now what would really be awesome is if they made a 3D Mario game that was actually 3D itself. That'd be so radical. But knowing Nintendo, they're babies. Nintendo is not cool anymore. Only PlayStation is cool. Really sucks. Nintendo's gonna die, and there's never gonna be a 3D Mario game. Boo hoo.
Oh, Uncle Nicus, how wrong you were. Nintendo didn't die. You did. However, your dream did come true. Pretty stupid f***ing dream, huh?
The Nintendo 3DS, released in spring of 2011, and being the follow-up to the Nintendo DS, it took off.
Gotcha there.
Yeah, the 3DS initially struggled at launch due to a pretty high price point and lackluster games. Nintendo thought, we have LEGO Star Wars 3, we'll be fine. And a few months later,
this might not cut it.
Later in the year, the system received a price cut and actual games came out for it. A remaster of one of the greatest games of all time, an entry in a really popular series, and, to round it all out, a 3D Mario game. Super Mario 3D Land. It was received very well both critically and commercially, with a 90 on Metacritic and sold almost 13 million copies. It's a beloved title, no doubt, but one that's rarely talked about.
But why is that? Well, that's why I'm here. I'm gonna take a look at this game and see why no one ever talks about it. I read the Bible all the way through and couldn't find anything, so I think my next best option is to actually play through the game.
But of course, some history. 1996, Nintendo launches the Nintendo 64 alongside Super Mario 64.
Whoa! Revolutionary information! Are you gonna tell me there's two Mario 2s next?
Flash forward 8 years later, and Nintendo launches the Nintendo DS alongside Super Mario 64 DS, the first portable 3D Mario game. But as its name suggests, it's a DS port of Mario 64. They added a lot to make it, in my opinion, the definitive version of Super Mario 64, and while, yes, it is the first portable 3D Mario game, it was a port of an 8-year-old game. So as the DS lived on, 3D Mario still had yet to receive an original portable outing. Then comes 2010. The 3DS was a year away from launch, and Shigeru Miyamoto announced that there were two Mario games in the works for the 3DS. A 3D one and a 2D one. I wonder what they became. Miyamoto said that the 3D one was like a cross between Galaxy and 64, like a 2D Mario game that played in 3D.
Better write that down for later.
3D Land was developed by Nintendo EAD, the studio responsible for Galaxy and Galaxy 2, but they also got help from Brownie Brown, the developers of Mother 3?
Oh, that That's so cool.
Stuff for it was finally shown off at the Game Developers Conference in 2011, including screenshots, and yeah, that does look like Mario.
They did it!
They also showed off the logo, and Satoru Iwata pointed out the tail and said it would be revealed at E3, which probably led to a lot of crazy speculation.
What's up guys, Game Informer Nicus 443 here with some news on Super Mario 3D Land, the new Super Mario game coming to the new Nintendo 3DS system. Just last week at the Game Developers Conference, Satoru Iwata showed off the game's logo, and looking at it, it's a nice logo. But there's a small detail you may have missed. It's a tail at the end of the logo. Now, there's a lot of things that this can be. It can be an editing mistake. They may have just forgotten to remove the tail from the logo. I personally think that it means Mario will be a furry in this one, which me personally, I know I don't speak for everyone, but I think that'd be really cool. A lot of people also think that they're bringing back the Tanuki power-up from Mario 3, but why would they do that? It's gotta be the furry.
Yep, the power-up ended up being the Tanuki suit from Mario 3, which was a power-up that let him fly and turn into a statue.
Can't wait to do that in-game!
At E3, a 2011 release was confirmed, and it was released in November of 2011. The 3rd in Japan, the 13th in North America, and later dates in other regions, but who cares?
I picked up this game on a whim last October. I saw it used for about 20 bucks and thought, hey, I don't have this game, I don't need this game, I should get it. So I picked it up, I played through the first world. and now it's September. But it's my destiny to 100% every 3D Mario game. My first words were actually, I will 100% every 3D Mario game before I'm 18. I'm a little late on that, but better late than never.
So now, Super Mario 3D Land. This box. Okay, this isn't bad, but it just comes across as generic to me. It just looks like exactly what would come up when you search up Mario and level. Again, it's fine, but it upsets me for whatever reason. What doesn't upset me is the name. I know it upsets some people, but I love this title. It's of course an allusion to Super Mario Land, the first portable Mario game, which was followed up by Super Mario World, much like how Super Mario 3D Land was followed up by Super Mario 3D World.
It's like fate.
Alright, enough sucking off the title, let's move on to the 3D Mario game for the Nintendo 3DS. Upon starting a new file, the game starts with a cutscene of a storm that blows Tanuki leaves off of a Tanuki tree, and Bowser laughs. And there you go, that explains why Tanuki leaves didn't show up again until now. There were no storms.
Naturally.
The next day, Mario and some toads observe the tree and notice a letter floating down. And, get this, Bowser kidnapped Peach.
This happens every single day. You'd think at this point the Mushroom Kingdom would get smarter, but no! We need a reason for Mario to run!
And run he does, to a boring f***ing world map. It's just a line and it's so boring. But jumping into the first level and wow. It's Super Mario in a 3D land. So the gameplay. Oh, I probably have notes on this that can help.
Oh, it's like Mario 64 and Galaxy combined.
So 3D Land takes the more general theming of 64 and the linearity of Galaxy, and 9 months later, 3D Land was born.
They gotta teach that in schools.
3D Land is like a 3D 2D Mario game. It's comprised of a ton of shorter linear levels that's just about platforming and reaching a flagpole before the time limit runs out, all with that basic Mario atmosphere. Now, it being a 3D Mario game already makes it preferable to the new Super Mario Bros. Games. While yeah, it does feel very similar to those games, it being 3D does allow for more interesting secrets and level designs. Originally, 64 was supposed to have a high number of linear levels ending with a flagpole, but due to the limitations of the Nintendo 64, they made 15 larger levels with a multitude of things to do in each of them. So 3D Land is like a true realization of that original concept. Now, not far into the first level, you get the Tanuki suit. Oh yeah, it can whip its tail, and really? So the two most iconic things the Tanuki suit could do, fly and turn into a statue, are gone. It can glide, and later on in the game there's a variation that can turn into a statue, but the suit can't fly at all. I mean, it does make sense, these levels aren't really meant for flying, and if you could fly, you can skip a majority of the level, but you could still do that in Mario 3. Oh well, as for how Mario controls,
Oh, he does.
it can only move in 12 directions, which actually isn't bad. You also have to hold the Y button to actually run, which sounds rough, but hear me out. The circle pad isn't the best analog stick, so having Mario only be able to move in 12 directions and use a run button feels perfectly fine. Now, no triple jump, that's stupid. One of the most satisfying things to pull off in 64 and Sunshine and Galaxy and Odyssey is the triple jump. Repeatedly jump 3 times in a row and Mario does an extra jump, flipping and letting out a and you have to time the button presses right, which makes it so satisfying when you pull one off with all those factors. This was the first 3D Mario game where he couldn't triple jump, and it does make sense. This game has a lot of tight platforming and not a ton of huge open area for a triple jump, but in some areas, it would feel so great to let a triple jump rip, so it sucks that you can't. You can still ground pound, crouch, long jump, backflip, and somersault, and he has some new moves. First off, the roll. This feels like the new evolution of the dive from Mario 64 and Sunshine, and it feels great. It's been in every 3D Mario since, and it's such a welcome addition to his moveset. And you can also long jump out of a roll, which feels fantastic. So Mario feels perfectly serviceable here. Not the best, but his moveset does feel perfect for 3D Land. As for the rest of the game, well, it's a Mario game.
Really?
It's pretty straightforward. 8 worlds, each having 5 or 6 levels, including a castle or airship to round out each world. World 8 has 8 levels with seemingly 5 levels and a castle, but with it being a Mario game, it's a fake ending and there's another level and castle after 8 castle. But it's pretty simple. Go through each level and reach the flagpole. Each level has star coins, which are fun enough to find. As the game progresses, you need a certain amount to unlock each castle. And speaking of which, the castles and airships. The airship levels are auto-scrollers that usually eventually end with a fight against Boom Boom from Mario 3.
Really like sucking off Mario 3, huh?
Or his sister, Pom Pom, who was original creation for 3D Land. Boom Boom fights are pretty boring, he just spins and you stomp on him. Pom Pom teleports around and throws throwing stars, but you still stomp on her, woo. Then there's castles, and yeah, they're castles. The standard lava and stone bricks. My god, Bowser's architects are terrible at designing castles, but shockingly good at designing platforming levels. Besides that, it's just level after level. There are occasionally toad houses, which of course grant you power-ups, and mystery boxes. You have 10 seconds to do some small challenge, and then you get a star coin or two.
And of course, the mystery boxes would evolve into the mystery houses. I retract my last statement.
The world map doesn't really have themes, they're mostly variations of grass. World 5 is desert themed, World 6 is cloud themed, and World 8 is lava themed, but very few levels adhere to the themes. On one hand, it keeps the game constantly fresh. You can go from a grassy level to a ghost house to an underground level to a level in the sky. It keeps the game from being boring, but it also makes the whole world system feel quite pointless. These are just random levels, they don't feel like one overarching world. I don't take much issue in that though. I'm not playing a Mario game to slowly go through a well-defined world. I'm here to jump around and have fun. I do like the level things jumping around so much. I'm not a huge fan of ghost houses or water levels, so to have a whole world of those would just be obnoxious. The last few levels of World 8 are lava themed though, which works for being the last few levels of the game perfectly. I like how far the last level is from the rest of the levels, and after World 8 Bowser 1, the world map goes farther right with a second castle taking up most of the area, with one other level. And the last castle sucks. It's riding this bone coaster, which is so boring. But the last confrontation is awesome. Mario makes it to where Peach is being held, but Bowser comes in and breaks the floor. You land far down below and have to make your way over a ton of crumbling blocks over another bridge. Hit the switch and Bowser falls, and you think you've finally done him in, so you head up the stairs, but he comes back shooting cosmic fireballs as you ascend the crumbling platforms. Then you run towards the camera on one final bridge as Bowser chases you, and throughout all of this, an epic song is playing.
I've never been this turned on by a 3DS game before.
And jump on one last Bowser switch, the bridge crumbles again and he falls down, hit by more rubble to keep him down. And with Bowser finally defeated, Mario finally saves Peach and flies away with her with a Tanuki suit.
Oh, so now it can fly?
And the credits roll, and damn, that was a short and easy game. Never mind. Yeah, after beating the first 8 worlds, 8 special worlds unlock. These house mainly remixed levels, they may have 30-second time limits and you need to constantly collect more timers to keep the time up. You may be chased by a dark matter clone who follows your exact move, so you have to keep moving but also not retrace your own steps too soon. And these both do add a sense of stress and urgency, which does make these levels a bit more challenging and fun. After completing the first special world, you unlock Luigi, and yeah, he's Luigi. He jumps higher but is slippier. There are a couple of new levels, but most of them are just the same ones from before. It's still cool though, and a lot of them have changes that do make them more refreshing and interesting, and it is nice to get more levels. The base game is short enough, so content is nothing to complain about. Power-ups are pretty simple this time around. Obviously there's a mushroom for those who are little bitches. The Tanuki suit, which of course gives you a tail that can be used to whack enemies and glide. It may not be able to fly, but hey, the glide is still incredibly useful. The striped Tanuki leaf lets you turn into a statue when you ground pound.
Thank God the Tanuki suit can do that. I can live without flying, but as long as I can turn into a statue, I'm good.
Fire flower, of course, nothing new there. Invincibility star, duh. And the item block, which gives you coins as you run around. And then there's the new power-ups. First off, the boomerang suit. This one is simple. It lets you throw a boomerang. I like this one because it gives you a good ranged attack. The fire flower is fine, but the flame bounces. So if you're trying to hit a flying enemy, it's more difficult. With the boomerang flower, it's much simpler. The propeller box gives you crazy ascension, which is really only useful in specific scenarios. I'm not a huge fan of this one. It's too context specific and it looks dumb. Any level in any of the games that includes this power-up with this power-up is already a lame level to me. And the invincibility leaf. If you keep on dying on any level prior to the special worlds, the invincibility leaf will appear, and it's a Tanuki leaf that's invincible to everything but lava, poison, and pits. And lastly, the P-Wing. If you keep on dying, this will appear and it can take you to the end of the level. Now the invincibility leaf has shown up a few times for me, but the P-Wing, I've never seen within my own game. I don't even know how you stoop to the low of using this thing. Overall, a good selection of power-ups. Each has their own use, and they're all at least somewhat fun to use. Now, to 100% the game, it's no light feat. You have to beat all 16 worlds as both Mario and Luigi, get all 3 star coins in each level, and reach the top of the flagpole as either one of the brothers in every single level. And after doing so, you unlock one final level, Special 8 Crown.
This.
Is Special 8 Crown difficult? Yes. Is it somehow boring as hell at the same time? Yeah. Frankly, the hardest part to me is these blocks with the gaps. Also, getting through the Boom Boom and Pom Pom fight, keeping a Tanuki leaf is tough too, but if you can make it past that with a Tanuki leaf, the rest of the level is smooth sailing. It's weird because this level was difficult, but I was also so bored the entire time. I think it's mainly the music. Outside of the Boom Boom and Pom Pom fight, the rest of the level just has the World 1-1 song, and this song does not fit as the last level song. Champions Road had a Gusty Garden Galaxy remix, and it makes Champions Road feel so epic and grandiose, like 3D World's final triumph. And that level is the only time that song appears in the game, which does make it more special. If it was just a typical grass song, Champions Road would be more boring. And also, Special 8 Crown mainly uses the ugly colorful blocks that many of the other levels use. They make me feel like I'm in a daycare, not trying to beat a tough Mario level. So yeah, Special 8 Crown is quite underwhelming, and when I beat it, I really didn't feel a sense of accomplishment.
That's right, I said it.
Now, one thing I barely talked about is the levels, and there's a good reason for that. I liked most of the levels. As I said earlier, I'm not an underwater level fan, and I especially hate ghost houses, but those were all fine. But man, are so many of these levels forgettable. But I don't mean it like that. I do remember plenty of levels, like the mattress one with the bees and the donut blocks, or the boardwalk one, or the jump switch level with the giant dark matter Mario, or even the one where you ascend a giant tree. I enjoyed all of the levels, but none of them left a lasting impression. I think part of it is the lack of names. Look at 3D World. Levels that instantly come to my mind are Condor Canyon, Puff Prod Peaks, Sprawling Savannah, Ant Trooper Hill, Mount Beanpole. These levels having names make them so much more memorable to me and makes me want to replay them. With the 3D Land levels, they're just World 3-5, and a ton of them are just forgettable. They're all good fun, especially with the game being in 3D. With it being a 3D Mario game, the levels can have so much depth, which makes them more fun. A ton of levels have secret areas that are a blast to find, little gimmicks that show so much creativity, and ideas that put your platforming skills to the test. The levels are fun, but not memorable in the slightest, and I don't really care to replay any of them for no reason other than to beat the game again. Compare that to pretty much any other 3D Mario game where I love to just go into a level and just run around exploring it. It's not an issue with 3D lands, but it does make it less appealing. The last big thing I want to talk about is 25% of the name, the 3D.
Oh shit, this is a 3DS game. I forgot.
Crank up the 3D slider and get ready to turn it back down. The 3D here is serviceable. So many people talk highly of this game, saying it justified the gimmick and was a game you needed to play with the 3D on.
No!
While some parts of the game are easier with the 3D on, it is by no means necessary. Some jumps are easier with the 3D on, some levels have sub-areas that have optical illusions that you're able to see with the 3D on, like a mountain of blocks but some are closer to the camera and you can't really see which ones with the 3D on. It's cool uses of the 3D, but to me, it ultimately cements 3D as a gimmick. It's not like gyro aim, which comes from the gimmick of motion controls but actually greatly improves aiming and makes it more precise. The 3D is just for parts to make the player go,
"That's cool! I have a headache."
That's the other thing. The 3D just gives me a headache. I played a few levels with the 3D and it is cool, but it's nothing more than that. I like the depth it adds, and it is pulled off fairly well, but on older 3DS models, the 3D is a pain because there's no face tracking. You have to be looking at it at the precise angle, which is so annoying with a portable system that you're holding. And also, there are some parts of the game when you look through binoculars or are aiming to shoot out of a cannon, and you can use gyro for that, which is cool, but then I can't see the 3D effect. What's the point? Now, the part of the game I do think does benefit from the 3D is the final Bowser fight, especially after he falls off the bridge for the first time and he comes back up and chases you more. He shoots these pinkish fireballs that look incredible in 3D. The way they fly towards the screen, it looks so convincing with the 3D and is the cherry on top of that last Bowser section. That's the one part of the game I do think is better with the 3D, it just looks so damn cool. Besides that, playing with the slider down, you're not missing anything. Now, to round out everything positively, the music. The soundtrack is fantastic. I've already talked about the final Bowser theme, but so many other songs are so good. The title theme and the World 1-1 theme, Special 8's theme, the Timed Blocks theme, the Snow Level theme. This game has an incredible soundtrack, definitely one of my favorites to listen to at any time.
And that is Super Mario 3D Lands. It sure was. So was my question answered? Yeah. Why don't people talk about 3D Lands? Because there isn't much to talk about. It's a good game, but compared to all the other 3D Mario games, it's definitely one of the more forgettable ones. I enjoyed my time with it and would love to replay it in a couple of years. The levels are all well made and the game looks and feels great for a 3DS game, but when it comes to playing a 3D Mario game on a DS system, I think I'll stick to Mario 64 DS. I liked 3D Land, but nothing about it stuck out crazy hard as better than the other 3D Mario games. Out of all the 3D Mario games, it's the most basic, which is fine for what it is, but makes it one of the most boring ones to look at. And honestly, compared to all the other 3D Mario games, while I still have yet to play Galaxy 2, I still think it's safe to say that 3D Land is my least favorite 3D Mario game.
Whoa, that doesn't mean it's bad.
God, it really upsets some people. I should probably say something to get them back on my side. Mario 64 DS is better than the original in almost every single way. God, I should stop talking now.